Pam Bondi's journey into the legal world is a compelling story of determination and ambition. Born on November 17, 1965, in Tampa, Florida, she grew up in a family where service to the community was valued. Her father, a police officer, instilled in her a sense of justice and responsibility from a young age. This foundational belief would shape her future pursuits. Bondi attended the University of Florida, where she earned her bachelor's degree in political science. She furthered her education at Stetson University College of Law, where she cultivated her passion for law. After graduating, she began her career as an assistant state attorney in Hillsborough County. Here she gained invaluable experience in criminal prosecution, which would later become a cornerstone of her approach to law enforcement. In 2000, Bondi transitioned to private practice, where she quickly made a name for herself as a formidable attorney specializing in criminal defense and civil litigation. Her sharp legal acumen and relentless work ethic did not go unnoticed. By 2010, Bondi's reputation had propelled her into the political arena. She ran for the office of Florida Attorney General and won, marking a significant milestone in her career. As Florida's Attorney General, Bondi focused on a range of issues critical to the state's residents, including consumer protection, public safety, and health care. She became particularly well known for her tough stance on fraud cases and her commitment to defending state interests in high-profile legal battles. Her advocacy against the opioid crisis helped shape statewide initiatives aimed at addressing addiction and drug-related crimes. What set Bondi apart from many of her contemporaries was not just her legal prowess, but also her ability to connect with Floridians. She frequently held town hall meetings and used social media platforms to engage directly with constituents about pressing issues they faced. This transparency helped build trust and loyalty among voters. Bondi's ascent in politics showcased her capacity to navigate complex issues while demonstrating unwavering commitment to her role. This combination of legal expertise and political savvy positioned her uniquely within the Florida political landscape. Her tenure was not without controversy. She faced criticism over various decisions and positions taken during her time in office. Nevertheless, it was her unwavering confidence and mastery of legal principles that allowed her to emerge victorious from challenges that could have derailed lesser leaders. As we delve deeper into the courtroom drama that would later captivate an audience, it's important to understand how Bondi's background laid the groundwork for her impressive performance. The complexities of the legal world often reveal themselves through the lens of individual stories, and Bondi's is undeniably one filled with ambition, intelligence, and a tenacious spirit destined for greatness. As the day of the trial arrived, the atmosphere in the courtroom was electric with anticipation. The ornate wood-paneled room was filled to capacity, every seat taken by a melange of journalists, legal professionals, and curious members of the public eager to witness this pivotal moment in legal history. The air buzzed with hushed murmurs and exchanged glances as everyone prepared for what many anticipated would be a display of extraordinary legal prowess. Underneath the large arched windows that spilled light into the room, Pam Bondi stood confidently at her table. In her tailored suit, she exuded an air of authority that resonated with those who entered. Across from her sat the opposing counsel, who seemed equally poised yet aware that they were up against a formidable opponent. Bondi's presence alone commanded respect. It was a quality honed through years of experience in high-stakes cases. Among the notable figures present were seasoned judges known for their no-nonsense approach to the law. Their piercing gazes surveyed the room, assessing both sides as they prepared to hear each argument laid before them. Members of the press had their notepads ready, capturing every detail with feverish intensity, while TV cameras lined the back wall, broadcasting live updates to viewers who were glued to their screens outside the courtroom. As proceedings began, Bondi's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the rising tension palpable in the gallery. She opened her case with a powerful opening statement that instantly drew attention. Listeners leaned in closer. This was not just another trial. This was an event where strategy and brilliance would unfold before their eyes. The judge's gavel echoed through the chamber, signaling not just a formal commencement but also a point of no return, a moment where lives and reputations hung in balance. The excitement in the room was heightened by both uncertainty and a thirst for justice. Spectators knew they were witnesses to something significant. Outside, news vans dotted the courthouse steps as reporters prepared for post-trial commentary. On social media platforms, hashtags related to the case began trending as people shared opinions on what they expected from Bondi's performance. Anticipation swirled like electricity in those fleeting moments before she took center stage. As arguments unfolded throughout that day, many felt privileged simply to be present as spectators of what could potentially reshape narratives within legal circles. Pam Bondi was not just another attorney. She was poised to redefine how courtroom battles were fought, and those lucky enough to witness it remained transfixed by her every move. In such an environment marked by suspense and significance, it became clear that more than just a legal challenge lay ahead. It was a defining moment for all involved, especially for Bondi herself, who had come full circle from her roots in Florida to arguably one of her most noteworthy days in court. As the courtroom settled into a focused silence, attention turned to the case that would unfold before them, one that was layered with complexity and implications for every party involved. At the center of the trial was a high-profile lawsuit accusing a major corporation of engaging in deceptive business practices that directly impacted consumers across Florida. The stakes were immense, not just for the corporation but also for citizens who had been adversely affected by its actions. The plaintiffs, a collective group of consumers who claimed they had been misled, sought restitution and accountability from the corporation. Their grievances ranged from false advertising to hidden fees, which they argued constituted a breach of trust. Bondi represented the state's interests in this case, leveraging her experience as Attorney General to advocate on behalf of these affected individuals. Her role was not merely about legal representation, it was about upholding consumer rights and ensuring justice was served against corporate malfeasance. The case was complex, involving intricate legal arguments concerning consumer protection laws and contract disputes. Expert witnesses were prepared to present evidence regarding industry standards and consumer behavior, establishing a framework that would elucidate how the corporation knowingly deceived its customers. This aspect alone added layers to the proceedings, requiring meticulous attention to detail from both sides. On one hand, Bondi and her team aimed to demonstrate that the corporation acted with malicious intent, preying on vulnerable consumers for profit. On the other hand, opposing counsel was preparing their defense strategy, which revolved around questioning customer claims and denying any wrongdoing by invoking technicalities in law that could absolve their client of responsibility. As opening statements commenced, it became clear that this case would be closely scrutinized not only for its immediate implications but also for its potential ripple effects throughout various sectors. Should Bondi succeed in proving her case, it could set a benchmark for future litigation against corporate entities accused of similar practices. Throughout this tense atmosphere, spectators could feel the weight of every word spoken. The court's decision could lead to significant financial penalties and force changes within corporate practices across Florida. Conversely, a dismissal could embolden corporations to overlook ethical considerations in pursuit of profit. As arguments unfolded throughout the day, journalists diligently noted key moments while legal analysts anticipated what might happen next. The courtroom was not merely a setting for legal arguments, it had transformed into an arena where corporate ethics clashed with consumer rights, a battle that symbolized broader societal concerns over trust and transparency in business dealings. With emotions high and stakes elevated, all eyes remained glued on Pam Bondi as she prepared to take center stage once more in this critical fight for justice, a moment that could define both her career and reshape accountability standards within corporate America itself. As the trial progressed, Pam Bondi's legal strategy began to take shape, reflecting her extensive preparation and innovative approach. Aware of the complexities involved in the case, she dedicated countless hours to researching both the intricacies of consumer protection laws and the specific deceptive practices employed by the corporation. This groundwork allowed her to construct a formidable case that would resonate with jurors and judges alike. One of Bondi's key tactics was her ability to distill complex legal jargon into relatable language that laypeople could understand. Recognizing that many jury members might not have a legal background, she focused on weaving narratives around individual experiences, stories of consumers who felt betrayed or misled. By humanizing the issues at hand, she aimed to evoke empathy and foster a connection between the jurors and those who had suffered due to the corporation's actions. In preparation for each phase of the trial, Bondi utilized mock trials to simulate courtroom dynamics. She invited colleagues and outside experts to play both sides, allowing her to refine arguments, anticipate potential counterarguments, and develop persuasive rebuttals. This dedication not only sharpened her performance, but also built her confidence in presenting a compelling case. Each practice session was an opportunity to glean insights into how various strategies played out under pressure. Moreover, her team meticulously gathered evidence, including internal documents from the corporation that could reveal knowledge of their misleading practices. These documents formed a crucial backbone for the case. They illustrated a clear pattern of misconduct that dispelled any notion of unintentional errors on the part of the corporation. Additionally, expert witnesses were enlisted, economists and consumer behavior specialists who could corroborate Bondi's claims by providing insights into industry standards and how they were violated. Bondi's ability to adapt during the trial proved pivotal as well. Observing how opposing counsel attempted to undermine witness credibility or downplay consumer grievances, she quickly adjusted her questioning techniques to reinforce her arguments effectively. For instance, when faced with technical defenses questioning customers' understanding of terms and conditions, she skillfully guided witnesses through personal stories that illuminated their plight, rather than focusing solely on legal definitions. Another strategic element was timing. Bondi knew when to press hard on particular points and when to pull back and allow others to breathe. This tactical pacing kept jurors engaged while ensuring they grasped essential details without feeling overwhelmed. Throughout this high-stakes battle in court, her meticulous preparation shone through each day. Not only did it reflect her commitment as an attorney, but also highlighted her resolve as an advocate for justice and consumer rights, a role she had embraced throughout her career. With every argument presented, Bondi strengthened not only her case, but also public perception regarding accountability in corporate America. The momentum she created positioned her not just as a skilled lawyer but as a leader championing change within a critical legal landscape. As the trial continued, Pam Bondi presented several key arguments that showcased her legal acumen and the strength of her case against the corporation. These arguments were grounded in extensive research and a strategic understanding of both consumer rights and corporate responsibility. One of her primary assertions was that the corporation engaged in widespread deceptive practices, specifically targeting vulnerable consumers who were misled by false advertisements. Bondi meticulously outlined specific instances where marketing materials exaggerated the benefits of products while downplaying associated risks and hidden fees. By providing concrete examples, she painted a picture of a corporation willing to prioritize profit over integrity, which resonated deeply with jurors. To bolster her claims, Bondi introduced internal documents from the corporation, emails and memos, that revealed executives' awareness of their misleading practices. This evidence was pivotal. It illustrated not just careless oversights, but a calculated decision to deceive. The courtroom reacted strongly as jurors processed the implications of this evidence, visibly reflecting their growing concern over corporate ethics. Another critical aspect of Bondi's argument revolved around expert testimony from economists who explained how these deceptive practices impacted consumer behavior. These witnesses provided statistical evidence that demonstrated a direct correlation between the corporation's misleading advertising and the financial losses experienced by consumers. By pairing emotional appeals with hard data, Bondi effectively strengthened her case in a way that appealed to both the heart and mind of the jury. Bondi also utilized powerful narratives from consumers who had been affected by the corporation's actions. She brought forth witnesses who shared personal stories about their experiences, how they felt cheated and betrayed, leading to financial hardship as a result of their reliance on misleading information. The human element added depth to her arguments, allowing jurors to visualize the real-world consequences of corporate misconduct. In addition to these compelling narratives, Bondi employed persuasive rhetorical techniques throughout her presentations. She often asked rhetorical questions designed to guide jurors toward self-reflection about fairness and justice, prompting them to consider how they would feel if placed in similar situations. This technique fostered a sense of commonality between jurors and plaintiffs, while reinforcing the moral imperative for accountability in business practices. As she moved into cross-examinations, Bondi's questioning style became even more pointed. She deftly dismantled opposing arguments by highlighting inconsistencies in witness testimonies or exposing vague terminology that contradicted earlier claims made by defense attorneys. Her incisive questioning not only underscored weaknesses in the defense's position, but also reinforced her credibility as an unwavering advocate for victims seeking justice. The culmination of Bondi's systematic approach was evident as closing statements neared. Her comprehensive presentation not only highlighted the deceptive practices at play, but also posed challenging questions about ethics in commerce, questions that would linger long after deliberations began. The entire courtroom felt the weight of each argument delivered with conviction and purpose. It was clear that Pam Bondi had crafted a compelling narrative aimed at achieving justice for those wronged by corporate greed. Through every argument presented, she reaffirmed her commitment not just to winning a case but also to championing consumer rights on a larger scale, a legacy that could reshape perceptions in corporate America for years to come. As Pam Bondi's arguments gained momentum in the courtroom, opposing counsel was acutely aware of the stakes involved and prepared to mount a robust defense against her claims. Their strategy focused on discrediting Bondi's evidence and undermining the emotional narratives she had carefully crafted to resonate with jurors. One of the key rebuttals presented by the defense revolved around questioning the credibility of Bondi's expert witnesses. They attempted to demonstrate potential biases, suggesting that these witnesses had financial incentives linked to the outcome of the case. The defense argued that such motivations could compromise their objectivity, directing jurors' attention away from the substantive facts and towards personal interests. In doing so, they hoped to diminish the impact of expert testimonies that underscored consumer harm. Additionally, opposing counsel challenged the interpretation of internal corporate documents introduced by Bondi as evidence. They contended that while certain phrases may appear damning out of context, an entire review of communications would show a lack of malicious intent. Instead, they suggested that any misleading misstatements were mere oversights rather than calculated acts designed to deceive consumers. This tactic sought to sow doubt in jurors' minds about whether there was genuine wrongdoing or if it was simply a case of misunderstanding. The defense also took aim at Bondi's use of personal consumer narratives in her arguments. They employed a strategy centered on questioning whether those individuals truly represented a broader trend among consumers or whether they were outliers whose experiences warranted skepticism. By doing so, they sought to undermine the emotional appeal Bondi relied upon, making it more challenging for jurors to connect with those narratives on a legislative scale. Furthermore, during cross-examinations, the defense sought to portray plaintiffs not just as victims but as responsible participants who may have overlooked essential details in contracts or terms of service agreements. They aimed to evoke doubts about whether consumers deserved full restitution when they could have taken personal responsibility for understanding what they were signing up for. As confrontations intensified, emotions ran high in the courtroom. Moments arose when tensions flared on occasion. Objections from Bondi's team led to heated exchanges between attorneys. The judge intermittently interjected with reminders to maintain decorum amid an atmosphere charged with conviction on both sides. Despite these challenges from opposing counsel, it became evident that Pam Bondi remained composed under pressure, a testament to her years of experience navigating adversarial environments. While her opponents actively sought to undermine her case and speak against her arguments, Bondi countered gracefully with clarifications that reaffirmed her commitment to consumer rights and ethical integrity within corporate practices. With each day presenting new challenges and unexpected turns, one thing remained clear: both sides were firmly committed. The stakes were undeniably high for everyone involved. The tension in the courtroom illustrated not only a legal battle, but also a clash of values centered around accountability and ethical responsibility in business, a narrative not only compelling but decidedly essential in shaping future standards within corporate America. As closing arguments loomed ahead, how each side navigated these reactions would be pivotal in swaying jury decisions and ultimately determining justice for affected consumers across Florida. As the trial advanced towards its critical moments, an unexpected revelation emerged that sent ripples through the courtroom. It was during a particularly tense afternoon session when Pam Bondi unveiled a critical piece of evidence that she had strategically withheld until the opportune moment. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as she approached the podium, her eyes scanning the jury and then the opposing counsel, who appeared unsuspecting of what was about to unfold. Bondi had discovered a hidden trove of internal memos from the corporation which detailed discussions among executives regarding their awareness of misleading advertising practices. With a calm yet commanding presence, she began to read aloud key excerpts from these documents, revealing not just negligence but a conscious effort to deceive consumers. "This is where the truth lies," she stated firmly, emphasizing how these communications starkly contradicted the defense's claims of unawareness and innocence. The courtroom erupted in a hushed murmur as jurors exchanged bewildered glances. Many leaned forward in their seats, eager to absorb every word. Bondi painted a vivid picture of corporate leaders knowingly prioritizing profits over ethical standards, turning what may have seemed like oversights into calculated decisions aimed at exploiting consumers. "What you are witnessing here," Bondi said, her voice steady and impactful, "is a roadmap of deception, a blueprint crafted by those at the highest levels within the company who demonstrated not only disregard for consumer trust, but also a readiness to mislead." The weight of her words hung in the air as she pointedly called attention to specific phrases within the memos that suggested an intent to mislead customers about product benefits and costs. In that moment, it felt as though time stood still. The opposing counsel was visibly rattled. Their strategy of portraying the corporation in a favorable light began to unravel before their eyes. As Bondi continued her examination of the documents, highlighting passages that indicated a clear understanding among executives about what they were doing, it became increasingly evident that their defense would struggle to recover. Bondi's approach was not merely about presenting documents, it was about framing a narrative that would resonate with jurors on an emotional level. She expertly linked these revelations back to personal accounts of consumers who had been misled, further driving home the real-world consequences of corporate malfeasance. These memos are not just pieces of paper, they represent real people, families affected and lives disrupted, she declared passionately. This moment also instigated a shift in dynamics within the courtroom. The focus moved sharply back to Bondi's case, challenging every assumption created by the defense regarding their client's innocence. Spectators were captivated. Even seasoned legal observers sensed that this could be a pivotal turning point in the trial. As Bondi concluded her striking argument, there was collective acknowledgement that she had turned potential doubt into solid ground for her case, raising questions not only about corporate ethics but also about accountability at higher levels of leadership. The surprise element of her revelation invigorated those present. Many knew they were witnessing not just legal strategy but also an ethical confrontation that could reverberate through future corporate conduct, a defining moment for both Bondi's career and consumer rights advocacy as a whole. The atmosphere in the courtroom shifted dramatically as Pam Bondi revealed the internal memos that exposed the corporation's deceptive practices. The palpable tension turned into a mix of shock and intrigue, reflected by the reactions of judges, jurors, and onlookers alike. As Bondi read the memos aloud, a quiet murmur rippled through the gallery. Many spectators leaned forward in their seats, captivated by the unexpected turn of events. The jurors were particularly affected by this revelation. Some exchanged furtive glances, their expressions ranging from surprise to deep contemplation. A few jurors could be seen shaking their heads in disbelief as they processed the implications of executives knowingly misleading consumers. It was a moment when personal biases began to dissolve, and some jurors appeared to relate more closely to the affected consumers Bondi had previously introduced through heartfelt stories. The emotional weight of Bondi's argument seemingly resonated with them, reinforcing their understanding of corporate responsibility. On the bench, the judges maintained an authoritative demeanor, though it was impossible to ignore a flicker of interest in their eyes as they absorbed the gravity of what was being presented. They frequently exchanged glances with each other, seemingly acknowledging how this pivotal moment could redefine the trajectory of the trial. Their role as impartial arbiters became even more pronounced as they took notes diligently while contemplating how this new evidence would shape their judgment. Meanwhile, members of the press sitting at the back of the courtroom were visibly energized by Bondi's performance. Reporters tapped furiously on keyboards, capturing every detail for their live broadcasts and articles. The anticipation was electric. This moment was not just about legal strategy, it had become a narrative that encapsulated wider societal concerns regarding corporate ethics and consumer rights. The gravity of Bondi's revelations transformed her case into a public spectacle that could have lasting repercussions beyond just the courtroom. As she concluded her reading and turned her gaze toward the jury with unwavering confidence, there was a palpable shift in energy, a collective realization that they were witnessing more than just legal proceedings. They were partaking in a vital confrontation over ethical leadership within corporate structures. Spectators felt an emotional charge surge through them as they realized that this trial could become a watershed moment in their understanding of corporate accountability. Reactions from those watching included both admiration for Bondi's commanding presence and sympathy for those affected by corporate malfeasance. Several people in attendance were visibly moved, some even wiping away tears as they recalled personal experiences with similar deception from corporations. This emotional impact served to further solidify Bondi's position as not just an attorney but also an advocate for justice. In an unexpected twist that day, it became clear that Bondi's argument had struck a chord deep within every person present. The courtroom transformed into a space where legal discourse intersected with profound human experiences, an arena where accountability was demanded not only from corporations but also from society at large. The reactions underscored an undeniable truth: this trial had captured hearts and minds alike, setting it on course to potentially reshape public perceptions regarding corporate ethics and consumer rights for years to come. The legal implications of Pam Bondi's strategy and arguments during the trial extend far beyond the immediate case at hand, potentially setting important precedents for future litigation related to corporate ethics and consumer protection. By successfully exposing the internal knowledge of deceptive practices within a major corporation, Bondi has not only established a legal framework for accountability, but also ignited discussions on ethical responsibility that could influence both public sentiment and judicial rulings in similar cases. One significant implication is the precedent set for the admissibility of internal communications as evidence in court. Bondi's strategic decision to reveal the internal memos demonstrated how powerful documentation can be in establishing intent and corporate awareness of wrongdoing. This could encourage more plaintiffs to seek out and utilize such evidence in their cases, leading to a shift in how corporations approach transparency and internal documentation. As a result, organizations may be compelled to implement stricter compliance measures and ethical guidelines to avoid potential liability. Moreover, the trial has highlighted the need for corporate leaders to prioritize ethical standards over profit margins. Bondi's compelling arguments could lead to increased scrutiny on corporate behavior, prompting regulators and lawmakers to revisit existing consumer protection laws. This trial could serve as a catalyst for legislative reforms aimed at enhancing consumer rights, as legislators recognize the importance of safeguarding citizens from corporate misconduct. Additionally, the emotional resonance of Bondi's arguments has broader implications for how attorneys approach similar cases in the future. By effectively humanizing the impact of corporate deception on ordinary consumers, she has set a standard for advocates to follow when presenting complex legal issues. This narrative-driven approach not only appeals to jurors on an emotional level, but also reinforces the moral imperative for justice, making it more likely that future cases will incorporate personal stories to highlight the real-world consequences of corporate actions. Another crucial point raised by this trial is the potential for increased collaboration between government entities and private citizens in holding corporations accountable. Bondi's representation of state interests aligns with a growing trend where governmental agencies actively engage in litigation against corporations that violate consumer trust. This partnership could empower consumers, encouraging them to come forward with their experiences while providing a robust mechanism for enforcement of ethical standards within businesses. As legal professionals analyze the outcomes of this trial, it is likely that they will draw upon Bondi's techniques and strategies to navigate future cases involving corporate deception. The implications extend not only to legal practitioners but also to corporations themselves, which may find themselves under greater pressure to maintain ethical practices lest they face similar challenges in court. In conclusion, Pam Bondi's performance during this high-profile trial may have far-reaching effects on the landscape of corporate accountability and consumer rights advocacy. By establishing a powerful narrative rooted in ethical responsibility, she has not only influenced public opinion, but has also paved the way for future legal battles that prioritize transparency and integrity in business practices. The echoes of this case will resonate within courtrooms and boardrooms alike, shaping how both consumers and corporations interact with one another in an increasingly scrutinized marketplace. As the trial concluded, Pam Bondi's impressive legal prowess had been firmly established, leaving an indelible mark on her career in the legal landscape. Her strategic approach, emotional resonance in arguments, and relentless pursuit of justice showcased not just her skills as an attorney, but also her commitment to consumer advocacy. This trial was more than a legal battle. It was a manifestation of her dedication to protecting vulnerable individuals from corporate deception. Bondi's ability to weave complex legal concepts into relatable narratives significantly heightened the impact of her case. By effectively humanizing the issues at stake, she resonated deeply with both jurors and observers, transforming abstract legalities into real-world implications that demanded attention. The courtroom scene, marked by emotion and conviction, revealed her capacity to connect with an audience, a skill that is invaluable in the world of law where persuasion is key. Looking ahead, the outcome of this high-profile case could propel Bondi into new opportunities within the realm of public service or private practice. With such profound implications for corporate accountability established through her efforts, one can foresee potential invitations for thought leadership on consumer protection and ethical standards in business. As companies reassess their practices under increasing scrutiny, Bondi may find herself at the forefront of shaping policies that promote transparency and integrity across industries. Moreover, the knowledge she gained from navigating such a dynamic courtroom environment will undoubtedly influence her future strategy in litigation. Bondi has already set a precedent that emphasizes not just the importance of sound legal arguments but also the power of storytelling in effecting change. Future cases may see other attorneys adopting similar tactics inspired by her approach, integrating narratives that highlight individual experiences alongside compelling evidence. The significance of this courtroom moment extends beyond just Bondi's career. It is indicative of a changing climate in which corporate entities must grapple with their responsibilities to consumers. Her success may very well inspire legislators to pursue reformative measures aimed at strengthening consumer protections across jurisdictions. As public opinion shifts due to the spotlight cast on corporate ethical lapses, officials may feel compelled to act. In summary, Pam Bondi's remarkable performance during this trial not only solidified her reputation as a formidable legal advocate, but also initiated critical discussions regarding corporate ethics and consumer rights. Her legacy from this courtroom may influence not only her own professional trajectory, but also reshape the broader legal framework for years to come. The echoes of these proceedings will linger in boardrooms and courtrooms alike, nurturing an environment increasingly attuned to accountability and ethical responsibility in business, a testament to Bondi's lasting impact on both the legal profession and society at large. As she moves forward, her journey promises to be an inspiring narrative of justice, advocacy, and reform in an ever-evolving marketplace where ethical conduct will increasingly determine success.